The midterm election season officially kicked off this week with voters casting ballots in primaries across North Carolina, Texas, and Arkansas. In North Carolina, the two frontrunners for the U.S. Senate, Roy Cooper and Michael Whatley, dominated their respective primaries.
Our state's best days are still ahead, and together we're going to win in November.
I love North Carolina. And things just should not be this hard for the people who live here. It is time for a change.
The real action, though, was in Texas, where incumbent Senator John Cornyn and his top challenger, the state attorney general Ken Paxton, were both unable to cross the 50% threshold, setting the stage for a runoff in May. On the Democratic side, State Representative James Talarico defeated Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Joining me now from Austin, Texas is James Barragán. He is a political anchor for Spectrum News 1 who has been following all of these races very, very closely. James, great to be with you. Now, this race in Texas has shattered the record for the most expensive Senate primary in U.S. history. I think the final total was over $122 million in campaign ad spending alone. There are less than 80 days until the runoff. Here's what both Republican candidates had to say post-primary.
I refuse to allow a flawed, self-centered, and shameless candidate like Ken Paxton risk everything we've worked so hard to build over these many years.
He received the most ad support for an incumbent in a single primary in U.S. history. Wow. But we proved something they'll never understand in Washington. Texas is not for sale.
And so, James, it sounds like a touch of bitterness there. How does the runoff work? What's going to happen between now and the runoff?
A touch of bitterness is light, Errol. These two candidates do not like each other. They've been not liking each other for years. So when Attorney General Ken Paxton jumped in the race, we knew that this was going to be a heavyweight rumble. Now, it's exactly what you said. In Texas, if none of the candidates in a primary race cross that 50% threshold, the top two vote getters go on to a runoff. That will be held this year on May 26th. And John Cornyn surprised many people here in Texas by actually ending the night in first place in that three-way race that included Congressman Wesley Hunt, who early in the night conceded and said, I'm going to get out of the way. Now, Cornyn is only leading Paxton by a little bit, but that is a huge overperformance because many prognosticators were scared that potentially the incumbent senator could end up in third possibly. So Ken Paxton does have a lot of ground to make up in these next 2 months heading into the May 26th runoff. There is also the factor that the Attorney General mentioned in that soundbite that you played. Senator Cornyn spent $70 million on this primary campaign. Perhaps that's the reason why he came in first place. But Attorney General Paxton says, hey, he's buying this race. I didn't spend that much money. I am prepared now to start spending that money. But the big factor there is going to be who the president endorses. The president had stayed out of this primary, saying all three candidates were friends. He didn't want to get involved. But now he's saying, too much money is being spent here. We need that money elsewhere. I'm going to get involved. He said he will make that endorsement soon, and he expects the candidate that he doesn't choose to drop out of the race.
Oh, very interesting. So now the winner of this Republican runoff is going to face James Talarico, a 36-year-old Democratic state representative from Austin who has become sort of the face of the opposition to President Trump around the country for many people. Here's part of his victory speech.
The number of Texans who have never voted before but showed up in this election is unprecedented. The number of independents and Republicans who voted in this Democratic primary is unprecedented. This is proof that there is something happening in Texas. Tonight, the people of our state gave this country a little bit of hope, and a little bit of hope is a dangerous thing.
Okay, so he says something is happening, James. Tell us what it is. Why is his message resonating with Texas voters?
Well, I think you got to give credit to Talarico, but you also got to give credit to Dallas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. These were two very exciting young candidates from the Texas Democrats who really sparked some life into this primary. It really was a heated dragged out fight. And they did set records in terms of the early voting that came out. 1.5 million on the Democratic side versus 1.3 on the Republican side for the early votes. So that's something that you don't usually see because this is a heavily Republican state. But both of them had really strong campaigns. Both of them had a lot of star power behind them. And just to point out what State Representative Talarico said, they had a number of people who had not previously voted, young voters. That is key for any Democrat trying to win a statewide race here in Texas, but also key that Talarico was able to bring out our independents and Republicans. In that speech, he also mentioned that there were Republicans coming up to him at the victory party saying, "I've never voted for a Democrat before. You are the first Democrat that I'm voting for." That's his plan. He executed that plan, and it shows in the numbers that you saw on Tuesday night.
Okay, so now, I mean, Talarico says that Congress should be less focused on the so-called 1%, the billionaires, the corporate leaders, and deal more with the needs of the middle-class majority. It's a very populist message, sort of with a Texas accent. He's saying the same thing as Bernie Sanders, frankly, but he sounds more like a Baptist preacher. And that's kind of, I guess, why he's crossing party lines and getting a lot of independent voters.
That's exactly right, Errol. In Talarico, Texas Democrats see a candidate that potentially could win over some of those independents and Republican moderates who maybe do not like what they're seeing on the Republican side right now. Maybe they're turned off by the Trump wing of the party. And it's exactly what you said. He's got that populist message with a little bit of a Texas accent. Now, he's from Austin. We don't really have that southern Texas drawl. That's a little bit south and west like Matthew McConaughey. But he's a guy who drives a pickup truck. He wears boots everywhere he goes. He does have that sort of Texas authenticity, and the faith message is very resounding with a lot of voters who maybe don't associate Democrats with the Christian faith, but he talks about it all the time. He's a seminarian. He quotes scripture often. It could be a positive, but Errol, something that I've been seeing after he was declared the nominee on Tuesday night is that Republicans are already starting to roll out their opposition. Cutting out clips of some statements he's made about religion and his quoting. I mean, he's a very liberal, very progressive kind of Christian. And Republicans are saying, if this is what he believes, he doesn't really understand scripture. I see that as a preview of what's going to happen over the next couple of months. I'm sure that Republicans have those stockpiled and ready to go to run in advertisements because, as you mentioned, $122 million already spent on this race. We likely will see that potentially get to the $200 million mark in this race before it's over.
Okay, I can't get my head around the idea of spending $200 million to get a job that pays $174,000 a year. But thank you very much, James Barragán. Great analysis, and we'll be checking in with you throughout the season.